Here are my two gigging guitars. They're both Telecasters, as you can see, but one is a very budget-friendly Eart guitar that I bought off of Amazon, and the other one is a Fender Player Series Plus that I bought locally at a Fender shop. Which one's better? Which one's a better fit for what you're doing? And which one do I like more? Let's get into it. First, let's start with some history on how I landed on the Telecaster as my main guitar for gigging. Now, when I first started playing guitar, I did not like this guitar at all. I felt like they were for old men and cowboys, and I was neither at the time. And now I'm an old man cowboy. I started with a Gibson Les Paul Studio, which I loved. It was in white. I actually went through a few different iterations of the Les Pauls, and then I tried a PRS. Now, the PRS is a fantastic guitar, and in my mind, I was thinking if I spent a ton of money, I would only have to buy it once. I mean, look at this core model that I had. Man, that thing is beautiful. But as a gigging musician, I really didn't feel comfortable having a $3,000 plus guitar sitting on the stage. So I decided to sell that, and what I did instead is I bought two of the PRS CE models, which are the bolt-on necks. Now, those both looked fantastic, but now I had two. I had the original one that I bought in black, and then I bought a brown one as a backup. I gigged with those two guitars for probably a year or two, and then one day my brown guitar fell over and magically hit something, and it chipped the paint off one of the corners. Now, looking at guitars like a PRS that look super pristine and they have that high gloss finish, they, in my opinion, do not look nice when they get all chipped and beat up. But you know what guitar looks great when they start to get a little road worn? Telecasters and Stratocasters, for that matter. So something that I started noticing as I was going out to more and more gigs is every time that I saw a Telecaster on the stage, the guitar player was always fantastic. And I don't know what it is, but it seems like really good guitar players are always gravitating towards a Telecaster for some reason. So I started to get my interest piqued. Then I stopped by a gig and I saw a gentleman playing a Telecaster guitar, and this thing was beautiful. It had almost like a flame top on it. It was a little slightly yellow brown. It had gold hardware, and it was beautiful. And not only that, it sounded mean. It just sounded so huge and full, and that just isn't something you hear from a Telecaster generally. They're very clean and very sparkly. So after the gig, I walked up and I asked him why that guitar sounded so fantastic. And he told me it was the Richie Kotzen model. Now, I might be saying that name wrong, but when I looked it up, he is a fantastic guitar player. He actually can really, really rip on the guitar, and vocally, he's a really good singer also. I decided after seeing that guy play that guitar that I had to have one. When I looked it up, it was $1,700, and I didn't really feel like making that big of a monetary commitment to a guitar that I may or may not like in the future. And also what I found out is they're extremely heavy and they have a huge baseball bat style neck. But what it did was reinforce the idea that maybe I should try a Telecaster. So what I did was I saw a review by Philip McKnight where he was reviewing the Eart guitar that he had bought off of Amazon, and he loved it. And then I kept seeing more and more reviews online about how great the guitar was. And when I looked up the price, it was $365. And I thought, well, for that price, if I don't like it, I can just send it back. Well, I ordered it, and it came in, and I was pleasantly surprised. First up is the guitar that I bought off Amazon. It's by Eart, and this thing has a lot of things really going for it. First off, the price. Second, it's just a beautiful guitar. I chose it because I really like the flame top, and I really like the orange color. And I really like the color they chose for the neck. It kind of gives it like a vintage vibe, and I really like that. One of the really big selling points for me are these frets right here. The fret wire is stainless steel. Now, I've never played with stainless steel before until this guitar, and they're amazing. They just feel like glass. They just move so smoothly, and the fretwork is so incredible. They rounded over the corners, and I've never had one where the actual fret wire was rounded. Usually it has a little bit of slope, but it just makes it so comfortable when playing up and down the neck. It does feel more hefty than my CE guitar. I would have to say it's probably in the 8.5, 9 pound range for this guitar. It does feel very solid, and it does feel really well built. But now let's talk about the things they kind of got wrong on this guitar. First up is when I decided to change this pickup and I decided to swap it in there. Once I took this off, I realized that the inside cavity is not routed quite right. There's a little line that's routed to cut through to here to get to all your wiring, and it's very, very narrow and it's very, very high. So when I went to put the pickup in, the pickup wouldn't seat right. It kicked up because the wires were going in there. So I had to go in there and I had to drill it out to get it to fit in there. The second thing that I didn't like, obviously, is I changed out the PickGuard. The PickGuard was a mint green, and I'm just not a fan, and I kind of like the the flashy blingy tops here, obviously. And so I swapped this guy out, and one of these screws broke off as I was unscrewing it in the body. And the only real way to get that out that I can tell is if I were to drill in there and pull that out and then reseal it. It's just not worth it, so I just don't have a screw there. Last but not least on this guitar is this tray doesn't quite line up correctly. The strings coming off here look like they line up just fine, but you can tell when you look at this pickup up close that they just don't line up. And one of these screws was stripped out, so I had to put in some wood and then glue it and then redo the screws in there. Another thing that's a little wonky is the placement and the routing for the saddle tray. What ends up happening is it's just slightly this way, and so I had to shave this off on the PickGuard, sorry, and then I had to shave it here so it would fit. And I almost wonder if that's why they have that weird original PickGuard. But what happens now is that it's shifted this way a little bit. So I really noticed after I put in this aftermarket pickup is that this high E does not line up with the pickup, the bars on these pickups. So what ends up happening is my high E is a little bit quieter. And you can see when you look at the tray that it's actually, there's a gap over on this side. Other than those few things that I mentioned, which could be a deal breaker for some, I really love playing this guitar. It feels quality. The neck is just so fantastic and fun to play on. I mean, these stainless steel frets, there's just no friction at all when you're bending. It's just so easy. And every time I play this guitar, especially since I changed the pickups, I have so many people that come up to me and ask me, what is that guitar? Where did you get that thing? Why does it sound so tough? And they're always shocked when I say, well, it's an Amazon guitar. But I still needed a backup guitar for this fancy fella here. And I did have the CE guitars at the time, but I was playing this exclusively at shows, and I wasn't playing the PRS guitar. So instead of having $4,000 worth of guitar doing nothing, I decided to sell those and roll those into other gear that I wanted and a backup guitar. So I ended up going to the shop to try out. PRS released an SE version of the McCarty 594, and I went and I tried them, and these are supposed to be the holy grails for everybody, and they just did not fit for me. The strings were super high from the factory, and at the shop they lowered them down for me so I could play it, and they were just buzzing all over the place, and I just wasn't connecting with the guitar. And I wanted to get something like this guy that was a little brighter and more grab more stage attention, if you will. And as I was looking around, I saw this guitar, and I thought, maybe I'll just try out the Fender equivalent, because I haven't tried it in a long time, because I tried a bunch of Fender Telecasters and they just didn't feel good to me. And it wasn't the right color. It was brown. It looked a little bit too country. And then I ended up walking out of the store with it. Now, of course, by walking out of the store with it, I obviously mean I paid for it. And they did give me a decent deal. Originally, they're $1,000, and I think it's actually like $10.99, but I think the deals are a little bit better now because sales have been dropping for guitars, so they're selling them cheaper. But is this guitar at $1,000 worth $700 more than that guitar? I gotta tell you, probably not. But I still wanted a Fender brand guitar because I've wanted one forever for as far as Telecasters go. And I really didn't want this boring cowboy-looking brown top, but I gotta be honest, I love brown guitars. They sing to me. So I played it. I did not want to like it, but I really do like it. And it's just a made in Mexico, and it's the Players Plus, so it does have the locking tuners on it, which isn't necessary. It doesn't really help me with stability or anything. It is nice for changing strings. It does make it go a little bit faster. And then it does include the noiseless pickup, which a lot of people don't like because it doesn't have quite that sharp twang that the Telecaster pickups normally have. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that twang because I play mostly rock, but this noiseless pickup kind of, to me, is just a toned down regular pickup. Like, it just takes a little bit of that bite out, and it actually, so far, it's worked really well for me. I've been thinking about changing it out for the chopper, but right now I'm just having fun having a single coil in here. The one major difference between this one and the Eart guitar is the tray down here for the saddles. It's not like your typical ashtray with the little handle, like the little sides on there. And I really got used to that. It's kind of nice. I could just put my hand here while I was playing and relax. And I know you're supposed to be up here, but it was just a nice reference point, so I was always at the right place. but it does have the individual saddles, so the intonation can be a little bit better, but really, I never had a problem with intonation on that guy. The other part about this guitar that's nice is it's light. Like, this is probably 7 pounds, if not lighter. It's super easy to play all night with, and I can hold this easily with one hand. All right, so what are the cons of this guitar versus the Eart? Well, this kind of sucks, but I was playing the heck out of this thing because I just love the neck. I do want to try a baseball style, like fat neck. This is a pretty thin neck on the Made in Mexico, but it does play easy, and it's nice. The stainless steel frets obviously are much easier to bend on, but you know, I've been playing guitar for a while, so it's just like being at home. But these frets, the fret wire in particular, they kind of had like a golden sheen to them, and I was like, that's really cool. I wonder how they did that. And then as I was playing over and over and over, I got this strange divot in my fret wire right up here. And when I was playing, it would ping. Like, I would come across and it'd be like, ting, ting. Like, anytime I was doing a bend and it got to a certain point, and ping. So I was like, wow, like how did that happen? Like, how am I burning these frets out so quickly? And then I looked at it, and you could literally see a divot. Now, this is crazy, but I started picking at it to see what the problem was, and it came off. Like, little pieces and chunks of plastic were coming off, and I had no idea what it was. Then I researched it online, so I was like, what the heck could have kind of that golden brown hue to it that could be plastic? And turns out it's the poly coating from the neck. Sometimes, and you can look it up on Google or anywhere, sometimes in the factory Made in Mexico, they actually cover the frets with poly for some reason, and I don't know if it's just somebody new or what happens. So what happens as you're playing and you play it too much, it starts eating away that plastic and it chips off. So I spent, and by this time I fell in love with this thing, so I spent 2 hours trying to chip that stuff off. And at first I was leveling the frets, and that wasn't working because you really have to sand. So I just started using my finger, and I just started picking it off. You're probably saying, why would I spend all that time on a fairly new guitar? It was just really weird. I just really connected with this guitar. And if you saw my video about getting that guitar plucked from Sweetwater and not having good luck, I decided to give a shot at fret leveling again. And now there's a new process a new to me process that I saw that Philip McKnight did, shout out to him, where they have a fret rocker, and in the middle of the fret rocker is sand, basically sanding paper. And it's got the grid on there, so you get between, and so you find the two, and if you get a high one, then you go between those two and you sand that one down. And that makes it a lot easier and less time consuming than sanding the entire neck. You just find the 1 or 2 or 3 high spots, and then you go back through and you crown, and after you've leveled them so that it gets that shape back. And now that I've done that, I love this guitar even more. All right, so now, which of these two guitars do I love the most? I love them both. Honestly, it just kind of depends on what I want at the day of the gig or what kind of music I'm playing. I never liked single coil pickups, and I really like the way these sound. They really cut through the mix really well. But if I am in a single guitar group, I'll either play with a high gain amp with this, and there isn't much hum at all because obviously it's noiseless. Or this one I'll just take because the pickup is it's a humbucker, so it just sounds fuller. But is this guitar worth the $1,099 versus sub $400? And now I think you can get these for under $300. No, absolutely not. But the resale value on this is going to be way more. And I like having options in my arsenal, and I like playing them both. And my suggestion to you, if you're out there trying to figure out like what is your guitar, like is it going to be a Schecter? Is it going to be a Fender? Is it going to be the Stratocaster body? Is play them all. I literally went years playing guitar thinking I needed the baddest, toughest guitar, and then all of a sudden I landed on the Telecaster, which I didn't want to love. But I tell you what, there's just something about when I put that guitar on and I put my hands on that neck that it feels like home, and it's easy to play. I hope you got something out of all this, and if you picked up an Eart guitar, let me know what your thoughts were on it. Or if you have a Made in Mexico that for some dumb reason they decided to put poly on the fret wire, let me know too, and how you fixed that. Mine seemed to work, but it was a lot of effort. But I really enjoyed both guitars. Thank you, and we'll catch you later.